retrieving. We're just working through some audio. If you want to bear with us. If you guys want to hand me a stick, I can hold on to it and pass it on if you would like.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Okay. So it's Rob McDade, ROB, MCDADE, Public Information Officer with the Phoenix Fire Department.
You need to turn off the other mic or no? I don't think it's getting anything.
Okay.
Give us a check one.
Sure, check 1, 2.
Very good.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rob McDade. I'm a captain with the Phoenix Fire Department and a Public Information Officer. Just after 11 o'clock last night, the Phoenix Fire Department received multiple phone calls into our 911 dispatch center reporting a townhome with an intense amount of fire, smoke coming from that. We sent our normal dispatch of 2 engines and a ladder. They arrived on scene quickly. We had a fast, aggressive interior attack on the townhome that you see behind me. During that search, while we were knocking down the fire, we did find at first an adult male in his 40s, we believe. We brought him quickly out of the fire and initiated advanced life support right out in front on there, remembering that our firefighters are also paramedics at the time, so it was instant care on him. Firefighters continued that search throughout the townhome. As we were doing that quick search, knocking down the fire, we started to find multiple children throughout this premises. Some of them were in their bedrooms. One might have 2 of them in there. We started bringing them out of the fire at the same time as well. Again, initiated quick, immediate life-saving performance on them. Unfortunately, all 4 were respiratory arrest. They were quickly transported to the hospital while we were still knocking down the fire. These are tightly gathered together, so we had to make sure we extricated those individuals out of that fire, but at the same time, we did not want this fire to spread. Again, a large amount of smoke and fire inside of there. We did pronounce the adult male deceased at the scene after we went through all of our rounds of drugs that we would give him, life-saving cardiac drugs, and then we transported the 4. We grieve with our community today that we've lost members of our community. I will let Phoenix PD speak directly as to the ages and who is pronounced deceased at this time. But I can tell you that our firefighters did everything they could and made a valiant effort going in there with a tremendous amount of heat and fire to do a quick search. We always enter these residences, especially in the middle of the night, expecting to find victims in there. That's what we trained to do. We did find them. We did extricate them out. And again, unfortunately, the adult male was beyond resuscitative efforts, and then the 4 were transported at this time. Before I turn it over to PD, if anybody has any questions directly related to the fire.
How difficult is it for firefighters responding to a call like that, pulling out children, trying to revive them? How tough is that emotionally for them and being in a situation like that?
So the question was the difficulty of extracting especially young children and the emotional toll. Listen, our firefighters are fathers or mothers. These are, you can never quite train your folks to deal with the loss of youth, right? But again, this is what we train for. It's almost robotic to us when we go in there. I listened to some of the traffic, the radio traffic. It was clear, it was concise. We've got 1, now we have 2. Command be advised, we are now bringing out a 4th child. We immediately set up a treatment sector. I would like to say that we gave the 2 individuals, we gave all 4 of them a chance to survive. But again, we can't just turn it off, right? I like to say we do it robotic, but we're not robots, right? We are humans. We immediately intervened with our folks to make sure that we had crisis with them, but they stayed together as a crew, and sometimes that's the best we can do. But again, you know, we are focused on the family. We're focused on their extended family, the neighbors. And again, this is something that, you know, is an unfortunate loss for our community.
Do we know at this time how the fire started? Obviously, we see a dryer that's burnt out and basically to a crisp right now.
Yep. So I can say that speaking with our fire investigative task force team, and again, PD's here with us and he can speak more directly to that, but there is no indication right now that would point us in the direction that this was purposely set. Now we're looking at what could have been an accidental start to this fire. And again, we understand there was a washer and a dryer that was pulled from there. We have to look at everything. And this investigation will take a couple of days. Fire investigators were here all through the night. They're back here again this morning. This is one of those where we will do our due diligence to make sure, but we're leaving nothing unturned to try to figure out what started this fire, because that's something that we want to make sure that we learn from. But and again, fire investigators will hopefully find a determination of that.
Can you tell us where the children were? Were they in bedrooms? Were they sleeping? They were in different rooms of the house, or where did firefighters find them? And had they all been kind of passed out because of the smoke, or where were they found?
Yep. So with not giving too much away for the investigation of it, I can say that we did find them in their beds. A lot of times when somebody is notified of a fire, we will find an adult going for their children, maybe in a hallway where they've succumbed to the smoke, or at the threshold of a doorway. At this time, from rescuers, remember, it's a chaotic scene. It's dark at times. There's heat, there's noise, but it looks to be true that they were all in their beds, in their bedrooms. So again, we're looking at folks that probably asphyxiated from smoke, not so much burn injuries. Again, that's the deadliest thing that can happen to them. That's why they were all in respiratory arrest, and that's why we did not take them down to Valley Wise Burn Center. We took them to the appropriate pediatric facility. 2 went to Thunderbird Samaritan and 2 went to Phoenix Children's Hospital. Again, valiant effort by the firefighters on scene to extract them, to knock down that fire, to give them a chance of survival.
What were if you can speak to this, I know it's a little bit more kind of, what were the condition of the kids as they left you guys?
Yeah, so I can tell you that all 4 were in respiratory arrest, meaning that we were breathing for them at the time. We were doing advanced airways into them, basically intubating, doing advanced life support on them, giving them every chance. But unfortunately, we had 4 unresponsive children that were treated and then quickly rushed to the hospital in ambulances, 4 ambulances to pediatric facilities.
Did we find any smoke detectors in the home, and could that have been one of the reasons why they were in their beds and weren't able to get out?
Sure. So I will give you early indications. Do not point that there were any smoke detectors there. That's not a definitive answer. There's a lot of damage from the fire, but the fire investigators can tell us that at this time they have not yet located any working smoke detectors in the home. This is preliminary, but that is where it seems to be pointing that they were not present or functioning if they were present.
And again, because of the fact they were found in their beds, the indication is that they weren't alerted to this fire and were not able to get out or alert anybody else in the family before the smoke got.
Yep. So the question again was, were these individuals notified of this? Was there any alert? Very early in the investigation, chaotic scene, getting everybody out, but I can tell you it does not look like anybody was aware of that fire. Early stages of it right now, but we found the children in their rooms and then extricated them out of the fire. Again, when you have a profile like that, firefighters go in, there's a term we use, find the seed of that fire, right? Where is that fire originating from? Put that fire out, check for extension. When you add in a rescue format to get folks out, we have firefighters now leaving a fire where we need to be continuing to fight that fire. Our command system balanced it to a first alarm. So firefighters have to stay, continue to put out the fire while we have other firefighters rescue those individuals out. That is all coordinated on the radio. Everybody on the fire ground knows their role, knows what they're doing, knows they're either part of the extrication or they're part of that firefight. I can tell you that was a very well coordinated attack in there. We believe that we gave them every chance to survive out of this fire. Just very unfortunate, and again, to echo what I started with, we're grieving with our community at this time. Any loss of life is tragic, but when it hits somebody that is in a youth, it's again further illustrates the fragility of life. And again, it's something that unfortunately we deal with in our profession. But our folks are back in the stations today and ready to respond to any calls.
Yes, speaking to before we talk to PD, just talk about what resources are available for the first responders.
Right. So first and foremost, so the question was resources for those that were on this fire. Again, our main function was to support the family, to support the neighbors. We had our crisis response teams. when firefighters go on a call like this, when they get back to the station, we debrief together. We talk about the fire. We provide those resources. We do a follow-up. So those folks worked late last night. Our team will reach out to every firefighter that was on this call. They'll check in with them tonight, and we will give them the opportunity if they need a shift off to get through that. But we've learned through this that we don't just cowboy up anymore. We work with our folks. We make sure that they've decompressed enough. And again, firefighters are pretty resilient. Sometimes getting back on Big Red, getting back on that fire truck and responding to calls is that normalcy of life that puts it all back together for us, that we can go out and help others on the shift that they'll go back to in 2 days.
And Rob, this may be a question for you or PD, forgive me.
Sure.
We've heard from people who've worked with the family that these kids, at least 3 of them, were disabled in some sort.
Yep.
How does that impact, where they may not be as responsive as you may have seen, that they may not be able to have the ability to call out when it comes to rescue?
Sure, yeah, and I'll let PD speak to the individuals of those, but with any children with any type of developmental disability or anything, children are panicked at that time anyway, right? That's why we talk about have a fire plan, have working smoke detectors. You never think it's going to happen to you. Quick conversations, but then when you're dealing with children that might not be able to understand that concept, yet another degree of difficulty for us on the fire ground.
And again, from your perspective, this is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. It's heartbreaking. We go to work every day because we want to save people. Firefighters, we don't like an outcome that isn't as a positive outcome. But again, there's no training for when we deal with children and children that are, you don't. There's no training for when you have to work a 5-year-old child that's in respiratory arrest and quickly get them to firefighters pulling off their fire gear. You're wearing your turnouts in the back of the ambulance. We multitask on the fire ground. Again, just an outstanding effort from everybody on the fire ground. I'll turn it over to Phoenix PD now.
All right, hi, I'm Sergeant Rob Scheer, R-O-B-S-C-H-E-R-E-R. I'm a sergeant with the Phoenix Police Department's Public Affairs Bureau. First, I'd just like to echo what Rob kind of said. And from the Phoenix Police Department, condolences to the family of the patients from this incident. Just to update you on the patients, just to get that element done, we do have 5 victims involved in this incident. As Rob said, an adult male was pulled out and was pronounced deceased on scene. 4 children, younger children, I can give you ages from approximately 5 to 12. All 4 children were transported to local hospitals. 2 of those children were pronounced deceased at the local hospital, and 2 children are still currently being treated at a local hospital in critical condition. Along with the condolences to those families, on behalf of the Phoenix Police Department, we'd like to send thoughts and prayers out to those 2 kids fighting for their life. Also, from my perspective, and I guess my perspective alone, I'd like to commend those firefighters that responded to this. Like Rob said, there's nothing, as first responders, we can tell each other this is what we may encounter. We can tell each other this is what we're going to come into contact with. But we're all human beings, and to see it in front of us, we do get robotic in those scenarios, and we do see, I don't want to say we see things that would expose us to this routinely, but it doesn't become easier. It sometimes becomes harder. And as a department, as the fire department has and as the police department has, we've learned from these scenarios, and the element of cowboying up just doesn't work and hurts everybody involved. So I would like to commend the work done by the Phoenix Fire Department and the firefighters that entered this house and rescued those children. Give you a little background on the investigation. This investigation specifically at this point will be conducted by the Phoenix Fire Investigations Task Force. This task force is, again, it is another great example of our partnership with the Phoenix Fire Department, but it includes the fire department and the Phoenix Police Department. The point of this task force specifically is to respond to any kind of fire that could be suspicious in nature, or in this case, that involves a death. The idea behind it was to include subject matter experts with the art of seeing the back end of a fire investigation and seeing what's behind us, and being able to divulge what occurred, along with including those that have an expertise in kind of the criminal element of a scene, and really to to enhance kind of what we do criminally when those arson investigations do kind of cross paths into the criminal element, and to help finalize those matters and bring, if there is someone accountable, bring them to justice. As Rob said, this at this point, there is nothing, at least that this preliminary investigation has, that says that this was a purposefully or this was set intentionally. There's nothing that says that at this point. This investigation is not done. I encourage patience with this. Anything that involves death, we're going to go slow and go and methodical. Specifically, that involves multiple deaths, and in this case, involves the death of a child, we're going to go probably even slower. Us as investigators, like I said, we're human beings. We want to know the what, why, when, and how right now also. Luckily, our experience, and these investigators, I assure you, are extremely experienced. They're going to slow down to make sure we don't miss things, because missing things in an investigation like this is not acceptable. And they won't. And they're going to go slow. They're going to fine tooth comb it, and they're going to get down to what happened and why. Again, our goal with this task force and our goal with this partnership is to investigate scenes like this and be able to find out those questions that everybody has right now, and that if I could, I would be able to give to you. So, yes, sir.
Can you tell us the relationship between the father and the children? Was it a father and were they his kids? Do we know?
At this point, yes, we can establish that it was a father and his children. As far as specific other relationships and things of that nature, that's going to be part of the investigation. Specific ages and names of the children, specifically the ones that have passed away. We, investigators, victim advocates, counselors, all of that will attempt to locate and contact anybody involved in these children's lives. No one's ready for a child to pass away. Those children have contact with many people, whether it be at school, teachers, classmates, former classmates, friends, and we're going to ensure that those outlets and things to help them go through this process are there before we give information on those specific parties. So,
is there a rough timeline on how long an investigation like this normally takes?
I would like to tell you a rough timeline. At this point, I would like to say it would probably happen a little bit faster, because we don't preliminarily believe that this was an intentionally set fire. With that kind of knowledge, it'll move, theoretically, it could move a little bit faster than if it was kind of a suspicious related kind of fire and might have been purposely set. So those tend to really slow down, because then it's an element of we have a whole nother party that potentially did cause this. At this point, I would like to say it may go a little faster, hopefully.
Can you, I know you mentioned it earlier about
Yes.
the number of deceased. Can you just go over that again?
Yes. Right now we do have one adult male that was pronounced deceased on scene. Again, 4 children were transported to local hospitals. 2 of those children have been pronounced deceased at a local hospital. 2 of those children are still fighting for their lives and considered in critical condition.
Can you say anything more about their condition? Do they have a pulse? Are they still in respiratory arrest?
At this point, I couldn't say what they are. I know obviously medical professionals are going to do what they do, just as the fire department did, to give them every chance to survive. I don't have a specific update to what they're dealing with right now.
Can you confirm anything about whether they had some physical disabilities?
At this point, we're going to go through the investigation, and we have 4 children that were transported to hospital, 2 that are deceased. Putting all those pieces together in a scenario like that isn't going to be easy from the forefront. When I have that information, I will push it out to you guys through a media advisory. I have one set and ready to go, but it's not going to include much more than what I've given you today. So I'll hold off, and when I can get that information, maybe be able to release ages and additional information, I will get that to you guys.
This was all around 11 o'clock at night that the call happened. Does that sound right?
Yes, the call came in shortly after 11.
You mentioned relationships.
Yes.
The father or anyone else that's related that maybe that you guys have reached out to.
We've really reached out to other family members, part of the process when someone does pass away. Specific relationships of those family members at this point, because of the sensitivity of it, I won't release right now. But yes, we're reaching out. That's kind of our primary goal right now, is really with the preliminary information that this wasn't intentionally set. Our goal now is to ensure and do what we can for those that were touched by not only the adult but the children also, and make sure we're there for them as much as we can. We do feel, obviously, as Rob said, part of our family, part of our community passed away today, and these are tragic events that us as first responders take very, very seriously, and investigators take very seriously. So yeah, that's our primary goal, is to try to find those that were touched by these kids, and the adult male involved, and really reach out and be there for them. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.